Okay, so on this problem, we are talking about an auditorium that has 21 rows of seats. The first row contains 70 seats. As you move to the rear of the auditorium, each row has 5 more seats than the previous row. How many seats are in row 16? How many seats are in the auditorium? What are they talking about? Well, let me try to draw out what they're talking about. I think it'd be helpful. 21 rows of seats, first row, 70 seats. Okay, let me try to do the best I can, which is not always the best, but I don't even have the tool on. Hold on. And then yeah, like that. It's kind of like that kind of shape. You know what I mean? And like there's like a row here, and then there's another row. There's a third row, and there's like, well, and then there's a back row, and there's this dot, 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 and the first says the auditorium has, so there's 21 rows, so this is like row 1 right here. Oh, here, let me do that a little smaller, and then row 2 right here. Row 3 right here, all the way to row 21. It's 21 rows of seats. The first row contains 70. So there are 70 seats in this row. As you move to the rear, each row has 5 more seats. So this is going to be 75 seats. It's like a big theater or something, you know, 80 seats, etc., all the way to the back. Okay, so they get in the picture, right? Here's the stage, you know, right here, or I don't know if it's a theater or if it's a sporting event, you know, and maybe, you know, right down there is the baseball field or the football field or the tennis courts or whatever, right? And it's how they do stadium seating. Okay. So they're saying there's 21 rows. At least mine has 21 rows. The first row is 70 seats, you know, the closest to the stage. And then as you move to the rear, it goes, you know, more and more seats as you go back. Okay. So let's try to figure this out. It's funny. I've been just looking at buying sporting event tickets recently. It's outrageously priced. Honestly, I would never go, but my wife likes sports a lot. I mean, I like sports too, but I'd rather watch them from the comfort of my house on TV with a nice snack and a drink in my hand. But my wife enjoys getting out, and so probably for her birthday or anniversary or something, I'll be buying tickets to baseball games and stuff. But it's outrageously priced. It's just unbelievable what those teams charge to go one game. And my kids want to watch. I was telling the kids, I'm going to sit in the nosebleed seats. I'm going to buy you one ticket in the nosebleed seats. And it's like $80, $90 to watch a baseball game and even sit in the nosebleed seats. Anyway, getting diverted. It's crazy. All right, so here we go. So they want us to figure out first off, how many seats are in row 16? So the first question we've got to ask ourselves, is this an arithmetic or geometric group of numbers, right? I mean, these numbers here, 70, 75, 80, what's happening? Well, remember, arithmetic adds the same number, geometric multiplies the same number. What's happening from number to number here? Well, it's adding 5, isn't it? See how it's adding 5 every time? So it's arithmetic, right? It's adding 5 every time. If you go down to the notes, an arithmetic sequence adds or subtracts the same number every time. Geometric is the one that multiplies or divides the same number. We're not geometric here, we're arithmetic. Okay, so that means I can use the a sub n formula for arithmetic. Let's do that. So I'll grab that formula. So that's step 2, grab that formula. an is a1 plus n minus 1d. That's the arithmetic formula, since we now know it's arithmetic. Okay, what do they want? They want to know how many seats in row 16. Row 16. So they basically want n equals 16. So I'm going to plug in 16 for n. A1, what's A1? That's the first row. This is A1. It's the 70. Right? That's A1. It's the number of seats in the first row. A1 plus n minus 1. D, what's D? D is the 5. It's the difference from row to row, term to term. Are you tracking with me? So we go 70, 75, 80. It's going up by 5 every time. That's the D. That's the difference from term to term, from row to row. Okay? And right here, I'm going to plug in 70 for n. No, not 70. What am I doing? 16 for n, because n is 16. N is, well, where'd you get that? Because they're asking me for how many seats in row 16. So if they want to know the 16th row, right? Like, that's like, I come back here, that's like one of the rows. Say like right here. They want to know row 16. How many seats in row 16? What are the number of seats in row 16? So I got to plug in n equals 16. Does that make sense? Plugging in right here, n is 16, n is 16. All right, so let's work it out. A sub 16, the number of seats in row 16, is 70 plus, what's this? 15, 16 minus 1, 15 times 5. And so that is 70 plus 75. That's 5 times 15, 75, which is 145. So there must be 145 seats in row 16. 145 seats in row 16. Now, the question is, how many seats in the whole auditorium? Wow. So right over here, let me put in, we just found that there are, the number is 145 seats in row 16. But how many seats in the whole auditorium? Well, to figure out how many seats in the whole auditorium, let's bring that down here now. That'll be part 3. Number of seats. The whole place, I'll just say place, I don't want to write auditorium. In the whole place, well, then what's that going to be? Well, you're going to have to add up all those numbers, right? You're going to have to take 70 seats in the first row, 75 seats in the second row, 80 seats in the first row, dot, dot, dot. Right? You're going to have to add them all up, aren't you? Right? You with me? Right? Number of seats, right here, all the way to the last row. Okay, well, how many do that? Well, add them up. What's that? S sub n. If you go to the arithmetic, remember, this is all arithmetic. We're adding the same number from term to term. But now we're adding up those numbers. We need this formula, the sum formula, not the a sub n formula. Do you see the difference? We're summing them now. We're adding them up now. We're not, part 1, we just were asked to find how many seats in whatever it was, the 15th row or whatever. But now, or 16th row, 16th row, whatever. But now we're not just finding out how many seats in a particular row. We're saying add up all the seats in all the rows. That's sum. That's sum. So I got to use that formula. It's arithmetic sum. So that's what we got to use, that formula. So I've got to say, oh, okay. So arithmetic sum, that's going to be S sub n is n over 2 times a1 plus an. That's the arithmetic sum. That's adding up all these numbers. Okay, how do we do it? Well, n is the number, is how many numbers? It is the number of terms. Or how many, same thing. Number of terms. So n is the number of terms. How many terms are there? Well, I don't know. It's just 70, 75, 80. It just goes back. No, actually, we do know. 21. Look, there's 21 rows. Every one of those terms is a row, right? There's 70 seats. This is row 1. This is row 2. This is row 3, etc. The last one is row 21. They told me. I don't know what it is, right? I don't know what it is. But I know there's 21 rows. They told me that. So Yeah, I know how many terms. There's 21 terms there, aren't there? So I'm going to plug in 21 for that, is the plan. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 21. So S sub n is 21 over 2, right? And then what's A1? That's the first term. That's easy. That's 70. Plus, now what's A sub n? Well, A sub n is this last term. I don't know it. I don't know A sub n. It's right, A sub n, well, but I know a formula right here. There it is. Grab that formula. It's A1 plus n minus 1 times d, isn't it? You have to grab that whole formula because we don't know A sub n. So we grab the A sub n formula. A sub n is equal to A1 plus n minus 1d. So then plug that stuff in there. So 21 divided by 2 is 10.5 times, then we get 70 plus, now what's A1? Well, A1, 70. It's a 70, isn't it? That's first term, 70. And then n minus 1, what's n again? N, remember, is 21. Right, because there's 21 rows. N is the number of terms, the number of rows. N right here is 21. 21 minus 1 times d. What's d? D is the difference right here, 5 from term to term. That's 5. All right, we're close. So this is going to be 10.5 times 70 plus 70 plus 21 minus 1 is 20 times 5. And that's almost an answer. 10.5 times, add this up on your calculator, be 100, no, 200, it's 140 and 100, 240. Hit the buttons on your calculator. And I'm getting 20 seats. 2,520 seats in the auditorium. And that's our answer. 25. So we were able to figure out the total number of seats in the auditorium by using the way they described it. So let me recap. That was not an easy question. So what did we do there? What we did is they told us that there were, first row contained 70 seats. As you go back, it goes up by 5. So it's 70, 75, 80 all the way. They told us there's 21 rows. So from row 1 all the way to row 21. So, and then as first thing, was it arithmetic or geometric? It's arithmetic because it's adding the same number every time from row to row. It's arithmetic. Geometric would be multiplying the same number. All right, so then I use the arithmetic A sub n formula. Plug, because they asked me how many seats in row 16. Plugged in 16 to find row 16 for n. D is 5, the difference, the jump, the difference from term to term. Work that out, 145 seats in row 16. And then they said, what are the number of seats in the whole place? Well, that's adding up all these seat numbers, 70, 75, 80, etc., all the way to the last one, which is row 21. And so then I use the S sub n form, which is the sum of n terms. There's 21 terms, there's 21 rows, right? There's 21 different rows, 21 terms. So n is 21. A1 is the first row, number of seats, 70. But then I didn't know A sub n. What did I do to help myself with that? I used the A sub n formula, which is right here. A1 plus n minus 1d. A1 plus n minus 1d. Again, A1 is 70, n is 21 rows, d is 5. Plug it all in, 2520 total seats in the house. There we go.